Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Americana, and this is a brand new neo-western crime thriller dark comedy from writer-director Tony Tost. And this certainly feels in the same vein of many other filmmakers who drew a lot of inspiration from the Coen brothers with films like Fargo and No Country for Old Men and Raising Arizona that take these Western themes, put them in contemporary settings, and, have a bit of dark comedy along the way, too. And this particular film is about a whole group of people who are going after a specific MacGuffin, which is a rare Lakota Ghost shirt. And this all takes place in a small town in South Dakota, and them desperately trying to get their hands on this for a variety of reasons, mostly for money, but others for pride and culture, as you have this array of different characters, who I'll get into in a minute. But I think Toast and company, those who are on the technical end of this film, do a really fine job of building a well-directed, intense, well-paced. The balance of tone works well between those darker, funnier moments and the more intense, darker moments. You have Nigel Bluck, who's a cinematographer, and there's some inspired shots, some really memorable ones along the way, for sure. And this is a film that really has a specific vibe that works for it. Now, from a writing standpoint, narratively, that's where I feel like this film, in general, the overall thematic work of it plays it pretty safe, and it's not exactly the most inspired and fresh take on a lot of these themes that have been explored in other films like this, certainly. And narratively, it does scatter quite a bit throughout, and some of the elements seem a little far-fetched, and, it's very convenient how this all threads together so perfectly and cleanly in the end. Obviously, not everybody makes it out of this situation okay, but I do feel like the film finds some good emotional anchors that connect us to the film and to these characters that carry us through. And I do feel like the film has some interesting elements, like this whole group led by Zan McLaren, Ghost Eye, and this Native American group that's like a Black Panther-esque Native American group trying to get this ghost shirt back just for the pride of their people. Those kinds of layers that they add in here. And Halsey's character, Mandy, comes from this very strict fundamentalist family, and it dabbles in the, those harsher, more archaic kind of perspectives, and women being treated like they're being punished and should be subservient, and looking at that story of trying to rise up out of that situation. Those elements add some layers to the film, where others, are playing it pretty safe and cliches and leaning into some familiar dynamics. I do think that the cast really brings a lot to the table. Sydney Sweeney is very tentative and hesitant as Penny Jo, this young woman who aspires to be a great singer, and when we finally hear it, it's something very impactful and meaningful in the film, but she develops this liking to Lefty, played by Paul Walter Hauser, and their chemistry is great. They have a charming connection, and him willing to get into this darker, like, underworld kind of situation to help her out and achieve her dreams is very sweet and a bit tragic. I think Halsey is probably the biggest standout in the film, and she's rambunctious, she's sharp, she's tough. She has this whole situation where her lover, played by Eric Dane, is one of the guys who's sent in to steal this shirt in the first place, and the dominoes of her returning home and that conflict that comes out of that. I think McLaren is one of the funniest elements of the film, also brings that tough veneer that really works in terms of leading this group, and Derek Hinkey, who plays his second in command, I think does a really fine job too. Simon Rex is slimy and just such a jerk as Ray Lee Dean, who is the one that kind of ushers in all of the action here by paying to get this shirt stolen in the first place. This cast really brings a lot to the table. It has interesting layered characters that bring the story to life. Even if it doesn't come together perfectly, and there's some, areas lacking narratively and in terms of its messaging, I do feel like this is entertaining. It is darkly funny. It is thrilling. And it's one of those stories that the characters and the performances really elevate a film that has some good ideas, but does really play close to those tropes and cliches that you expect from a dark comedy crime thriller like this one. But those are my thoughts on Americana. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.